Rafi wrote in saying, what happened to people you guys went to high school with? Did the class clowns end up successful? What happened to the bullies? Any interesting stories? Yeah, there's a lot of interesting ones. I mean, if I had to big picture it, the kids who were, quote, popular in high school, I went to a public school, which maybe has a broader cross section of students, right? I know people who went to private schools where everybody's just doing well. The people who were, quote, popular in high school are by and large not necessarily doing as well as you would expect. And many of the people who were doing best are individuals who were not outcasts, but certainly maybe had smaller groups of friends, fewer friends, were less popular, seemed more academically oriented, etc. My sense, Lewis, is that that's the big picture for our high school graduating class.
Yes, it was about 205 students.
Yeah.
I agree. That's pretty much what happened. There are some exceptions.
Yep.
But generally, it was kind of a reversal.
It's hard. In high school, people always come in, Rachel, and they say, the stuff that you think matters right now, it's not going to matter. Not only won't it matter later in life, it won't even matter next year when you're in college. And it's hard to believe that when you're in high school many times. But in a lot of ways, it really does end up being true. Whatever sort of establishes these hierarchies in high school oftentimes is of no relevance or indicator. I mean, the class, you know what, actually, I'm now realizing I'm identifying specific people. I don't want to say anything specific, but there are just a lot of these surprises 10 years later when you look back, aren't there?
Yeah, and I would say the theme that you mentioned definitely held true in my high school as well. It was a little bit different for me because I was in this kind of small democratic learning institution, which was definitely more focused on academics and less kind of on social hierarchy and things of that nature. So for me personally, it wasn't as big of an issue, but I've definitely noticed that trend hold true for what I've seen.
I've talked to some people, Lewis, who went to private schools, and they say this whole thing of like the popular kids and the unpopular kids, it didn't exist in my school because the administration was just so involved in making sure there weren't outcasts and the bullied, etc., that the entire concept of that, I've only heard about it from people who went to public school, which I can't imagine we know that there are private high schools where there is significant bullying, hazing, and clickiness.
No doubt. It could have just been that the people you speak to were oblivious to it.
that could be.
Right.
As people who, many people who tend to go to private schools can be oblivious about a great many things.
Wow. So Lewis's critique there, how does that ring to you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think that tactic by administration in private schools is really that beneficial. Who is that going to benefit in the long run? Because I feel like when you're in high school, you learn how to deal with all different types of people.
Yeah.
Later on, when you're in college, when you're in a working environment, when you're working on some sort of group project. So I don't really know if that's the best kind of way to go.
I tend to agree. It's the same idea of the college safe space protecting students from anything that might be upsetting. In what way does that better prepare you for the real world? That being said, a high school freshman is very different than a high school senior, and a high school senior is very different than a college senior. So I think it's important to sort of bear in mind the age of the kids that we're talking about. But big picture, Lewis, I agree. Protecting all children from everything in the real world long term is not a benefit.
No, a detriment, actually. Very harmful.